And hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here also with Stefan Rao, also known as Tank, and we are on Dank Live, and we're now in our what this is number 114th show, straight in a row, all dedicated towards bringing the Manna World Holding Trust and the funds to the world, as well as looking at the GCR and letting people know it's a big lie and other things. How are things going, Tank?
Things are very, very good. I'm watching with great anticipation every day now as I'm watching real things happen. My seers, right, the various visionaries, so to speak, that um, have the ability to kind of see beyond the veil a little more clearly. They've been talking about how this is really a great time of manifestation. We are in a time where it will be much easier to manifest the reality we want. And as much as that seems like an abstract concept, I think to a lot of people, the reality is like we've seen this time and time again. Where it happens, and if we're just honest with ourselves about what we're seeing, we'll be able to remember kind of our true strength and our power to do that. So I am very much holding the reality and the excitement, the emotional joy and the peace and exhilaration that this money for real projects is already in our account, and we are, uh, just putting things in place to actually distribute. And I expect that I associate that personally with a feeling of absolute liberation, like being able to take a full deep breath for the first time in a long time. So that's what I'm holding on to personally. Just so everyone knows, I'm not saying that that's um, the reality you're creating, but certainly the reality I'm creating, and I have ample evidence and proof to back that up. You're watching things happen now with the presidency. This massive conspiracy. I mean, it's very obvious. The Secretary of Homeland Security. Did you see this? How there was raids planned to go and like grab the illegal immigrants who were not given asylum and take them, back to their country, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
the Secretary of Homeland Security sabotaged it.
Yep.
So he called it off. Um, I'm just looking at things like that. It's like wow, like when you think about it, it's like every time you turn around, you're seeing someone on the highest level now. I mean, that's the guy who should be, you
Well,
know.
I mean, the thing is that if they're going to steal the election, they need the votes that are not legitimate, which have come in with the undocumented immigrants here, and those are the ones they're counting on. And if you start deporting them, then that means they have no chance in this next election. So that's one of the reasons also for the mass increase. 100,000, in a month, or 150,000 in a month. Uh, this is the overall the purpose. They set up systems to distribute them into areas where they want them, give them assistance, even to get them. There's even I saw something about them getting fake IDs, systems of including social security numbers and everything. They
No, there's no
like a
need to get a fake
factory.
ID. You can come to New York and get a license for without a fake ID.
Yeah. Well, this also meant meaning including the social security card and other
Oh,
things like that. So it was like a mill, and then people just big line going up, and then people making money off of getting this all done. So if he threatens that, they freak out, right? Because that is their last hope. They're not going to get the actual real election results in any way reflecting. It's. I saw one meme out there. They showed all the presidential candidates on the Democrat side and said they're not going to win if they don't get more people to their rallies than are running for election.
well, I'll tell you what. I have a little secret. We have some hard incriminating evidence on one of the candidates, um, who I don't think is really a threat, but he's the only one who would represent a threat. And I think we're going to hold on to that a little bit. and bring that out when the timing's right. Because
Sounds good.
yeah, we are
But was to keep
pro-Trump.
it very vague, and then they won't know. All we know is it's a he.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, the
But
question is, how many he's are there other than I think Bernie is a Sanders is a he. The rest of them, I'm not sure about.
well, there's the one guy. I think his full name is White. Is like soggy bread. He like reminds me of like white Wonder Bread soaked in water. I mean, how he ever got elected is an absolute miracle. He compared himself and the other Democrats to the Avengers. I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? Was the Avengers a group of average people that were trying to commit genocide around the world? What are you talking about, you idiot? Do you even watch movies? Um, so, not a fan of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing more and more about people reflecting that the JFK Jr. is going to be Trump's running mate, and they're taking things that Trump has said and say, "Oh, there's a big announcement coming up, right?" And in the next 2 weeks, and so it all looks like there that would be. It would make sense if you're going to bring JFK Jr. on the ticket, right? You do it after you announce, right? And at the 4th of July celebration, and then you then let JFK Jr. then start talking about why he disappeared and point to all of the ones that were responsible, including why he called his magazine George, right?
Well, it'd be
And
amazing
then
because he could actually bring conspiracy realities to the mainstream. You know, it'd be
yeah,
incredible.
well, he could, there would be. Just think about this: if you're going to bring out 100,000 sealed indictments and you're going to start arresting people across the board, who better to be out in the front of that and saying we're cleaning up the swamp and this is why than JFK Jr.
I'd love it. You know, I'll tell you, until you said that, I was so indifferent about JFK Jr. I was like, so what? Who cares? But now I'm like, wow, that is really powerful. That is a powerful message. Now, here's what's amazing. I've been thinking about this. Like, who's going to run against that ticket? I mean, you couldn't. Honestly, I thought about it. I think I'm going to run for. I'm going to run for office as a Democratic candidate, and I'm going to say a vote for the Democrats to vote for genocide, and I'm just going to campaign on that. I'm just going to keep pumping that we need to control the population.
Well,
Because
this would, I mean, how many Democrats would really do the hashtag walk away at that point? You have JFK Jr., the last real great Democratic president out there, then saying, listen, we're going to clean up all of this military industrial complex, all of these traitors, and who could say anything against him from the Democratic side, really? At that point, it would be a sharp division would form in the Democratic Party, and this would be the time to do it. A
well,
year, a year and 16 months before the election.
I'll tell you what. One thing that gives some credence to what you're saying is this: is you know, there were there are a lot of Democrats who are aware that Nancy Pelosi was planning to blow up the Capitol building during the State of the Union address, right? And in that, you have to think a lot of them were deep state who were, supporting Nancy Pelosi, right? So I would say there's already a divide. There's already a divide, and it's just quiet, and they're waiting for the right time. And I think that's what's really going on. And that you have a divide, and I think when it makes itself known, you're going to have this incredible surge of the people's movement, right? Where people wake up and like enough is enough. Antifa is a terrorist organization. Ilhan Omar is promoting actively another country's rule. She's constantly provoking fights with the United States. I mean, literally, she should be removed. She moved here illegally by marrying her brother. I mean, everything.
Right. Yeah, I know. I heard that too. That she married her brother. Omar married her brother, and now she's
That
a
that's a
congresswoman.
fact. Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah. I mean, so you have these characters who are in place, right? And I'll tell you, I am moving on this already. Is I have just a truckload of evidence, and I specifically asked for this information about New York, right? Now, Alexandria Cortez is the congresswoman for the Bronx and Queens, right? And now these are very important counties in the whole country, right? These are two of the biggest counties in the entire country, right? Queens is the most multicultural, diverse county in the entire world, right? So it's a big deal to represent those areas, right? And so in the Bronx, the water has more lead content and more is more toxic than the water in Flint, Michigan, which drew international attention, right? And ultimately now we see that it resulted in the mayor and the governor like having these illegal slush funds where they were soliciting donations to help, and they just stole the money. And nobody even talks about that though. It's not even hardly mentioned on the news. It's like a mention, and then they just ignore it. Like no big deal, no big deal. Let's get back to President Trump. How dare he be innocent, right? Um,
Yeah.
so at some point, it's like there has to be something that allows logic to set in, and I do agree. This guy we had on Friday, really amazing the conversation because he said, look, it's all about the water because the water is keeping people dumbed down because we are water. I mean, we're like 80% water. You know, so if you have this water that's literally uh, just it's a neurotoxin, right? And it's basically severing your ability to comprehend just sound logic. You know, um, I talked to this guy from LA who he's like a rock star who has that 420 TV, and he called me basically to chastise me for uh, for putting out a message about child trafficking. He's like, it's just too negative, man. Because like their sensitive world and the mangina population, right? They're all like they can't have anything that's like too aggressive or speaks the truth too much, right? He's like, I speak my truth, but like I do it in a positive way. And what he means by positive is that he lies to himself and to others, right? And I mean that's the reality, right? Of this whole like sissified group of men who are afraid to ever talk about anything that's harsh for fear of coming across as being negative. This the psyops of political correctness, right? Like political correctness is a CIA MI6 psyops, right? Designed to implement the etiquette of the order into the general pop, and in so doing, you could talk about horrific things in a very PC kind of way, right? And that's what they do all the time. Instead of saying genocide, the politically correct way to say genocide is population control.
Yeah, it's amazing, the extent that they've taken all this to, and it's so obvious. I watch it in front of me on, the role lead. They reverse the roles in all of the films and TV shows where the woman is the aggressor and the man is is one. And I was even looking back at the old Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and at the time I didn't really notice it, but now now looking at it now, I said, oh, they were putting it back in there at that time. It was very subtle, but they just do it over time to kind of lead us down a way to normalize it, right?
Yeah,
But their end goal is genocide, is basically the elimination of the people. And so this has to stop, and we have to recognize it for what it is, and that it was put there. We can trace all the roots of it back to Project Mockingbird, and then Project Paperclip, and all the way to the Nazis, and then we can go even further back on what they've been doing. All comes down to the cabal. and the control over the money system. And that's why we can't have a money system that is in the control of a private group of banks.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can't have like a bunch of half breed alien draconians who believe that people are food, entertainment and slaves. That I think we can all agree, can't we, that can't happen? You know, because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong, I'm sure, in some galactic races where they have, I don't know, these androgynous, homogenous, characters, right? Where everybody is the same. Men and women are the same. Everything is the same. Everything roles are the same. That is
Right.
fine in those cultures because they probably reproduce within themselves somehow and they don't need a partner, right? But here, if you do that, you make men unattractive to women and women unattractive to men because women are acting like men and competing. Men are being emasculated and reduced to, whatever. And it's not about empowering women by making them more like men. This just drives me crazy. I think about it all the time because when you see women who just want to be women, like it's like they're now shamed for doing that, right? By the angry butch lesbian mob of like so-called feminists. And God forbid anybody say anything because then I'm expressing my toxic masculinity. But at the end of the day, it's like why isn't it just okay for women to be? Why can't women be powerful in being women? I mean, I'm a true feminist. I'm a believer in the power of women being women and all the power they have just by being that, not by trying to make them like guys. I mean, gross. You know?
I mean, there's a natural division between men and women, and even and you look at different societies around the world, there's always a division between the men and the woman, and that and each has their role, and they each respect each other's roles, and when you disrespect the other side, then that other side, starts, acting the opposite side. You're just confusing the whole thing, and the result is reduced population. That's the basis of this, right? It's not.
Well,
It's
even how is it that Bill Gates since 1997 has been interviewing and talking about how vaccines help control the population? How? How do vaccines, which are supposed to help people stay alive, control the population? It doesn't make sense
right.
unless you're putting other drugs in there. Now, this was actually established, right? This was established with the Roman Catholic Church. Now, because they use these deferring control mechanisms, right, to maintain order, um, the Catholic Church had already, drawn its line in the sand and said they didn't believe in contraceptives, right, or abortion. So they had to come out. I think it was 1967. The Pope, after John Paul, who died in 1963, the Pope after him, even though they accredited someone else, it was that Pope in 1967 who came out and he said outright that he said, we don't believe in contraceptive, but if someone lost the ability to bear offspring because they were being treated for another condition, that would be perfectly fine, right? So in that, he signed off to let it be okay to add these 13 different chemicals that are included in every vaccine to make these to basically make people sterile, so
Right.
they can't have kids.
Yep. And I was, repeating talking about my daughter who is, has an ultrasound business looking at babies, and she sent me, new pictures of my granddaughter, who's yet to be born, and it's amazing the way it looks, how it is a real, girl there. It's not an unborn, gelatinous, group of cells, right? It's a baby, but
Yeah.
it but she tells me how difficult was it for her to get pregnant, and she literally had to take medicine, right, to increase her chances of getting, and more people have to. So that's this previous generation. So what about this one generation that's being born right now? Will they be able to have children? They're forcing all of these vaccines on them at this time. It's a force. I mean, it's by law. You can't go to school, and if you don't go to school, then they'll take the kids away from you, and then give them the shots anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what. They made it legal in New York now, or they made it mandatory that everyone has to get this MMR vaccine, right? And if you're not up to date with your MMR, then you have to do it. Now, I'm of the belief that this new MMR is loaded with, things that are going to sterilize the humanity, right? And they're going to try to impose this on people because this is one of their last pushes to really suppress humanity, right? And I really think if we're going to draw a line in the sand, I mean, you can't force me to take medication. And they created this fake outbreak. Now, I've got this confirmed because they're alleging that the Orthodox community that is like, they have religious Orthodox Jewish community. They're saying that there's a mumps or a measles outbreak, and there's not. That's a lie. So they're fabricating this data, right? And I actually saw this because I searched the number of deaths caused by measles since like 1999, and there was 59 deaths from like 1992 to like 2015. 59 deaths total. Now they're saying that it's like 500 deaths a year, right? Caused by this. So Google's actually changed the information.
Right. Same thing as they did with climate, right? They got all the data together under the government's control, and then they changed it to fit their narrative.
Yep.
So you can't trust what the government's going to do when they decide that we're the safe place to put this information. So now we know we can't trust what the government is saying about all these things.
No, you can't. That is the scariest part right now. Is you have all this fabricated information, and it comes to a point where you have to do new studies. You have to have independent study. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't have any government-controlled studies going on, and that's what they've done. And this is what Eisenhower warned about back in 1958. He's like an ever-growing controlled research done by the universities, which are funded by the government, by the federal government. Keeping in mind we have lost any sight of what the state government does because the state government is essentially powerless, except for the way the states right now are currently trying they're battling, right? So you have New York, which is like, hey, anything goes. You could kill a baby, you could kill a 14-year-old, doesn't matter, right? Whatever you want to do, right? And then you have someplace like Alabama. Now Alabama, I mean, Alabama makes it completely illegal to do any kind of abortion, right? Meanwhile, they had there's this young woman. She's about 30 years old now. She has 3 kids from her rapist, right? From her childhood rapist who raped her from the time she was about 12 years old, 12 years old. Got pregnant the first time when she was 14. Had a miscarriage. Got pregnant again when she was 16. Had that baby. Got pregnant again when she was 19. So they knew this guy was regularly raping this girl, right? They proved it with DNA. They did nothing, and they just forced that woman, who now has 3 kids at 30 years old, and they forced her to give that same rapist who raped her to give him visitation rights. Think about it. That means she's got a son or daughter that's roughly the same age as she was when he was raping her.
Right.
I mean, that's horrendous, Alabama. So, some of these things to me, it's like, that's why I question even when they come out with a very extreme law like that, where it's like, wow, these guys are really taking a stand against abortion, right? It's great.
Right. It sounds like it.
But I think it's a setup. They're just doing it because they know it's going to be repealed. because that kind of thing should not happen. You shouldn't have that happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like you wonder if this like was slipped in the very last moments to get it passed, kind of thing, right? What they do in politics, and then it sounds good, like when you hear it, and we got to go to a vote, but then you after you get to think about it, it's like, oh wow, that means this. Maybe something like that happened to it. It's hard to say, because our system is so broken. The politicians don't even read the bills that are put there. They're put together by these think tanks, and the think tanks are not thinking on our best interests. They're thinking best on their best interest.
Mm-hmm.
How can they make money at it?
The other thing too is this is like, every whistleblower who's ever got one over, and really successfully gotten in and disrupted the system, right? And they've gotten in, they've made some kind of major change, they've won some kind of major court battle. They come back on those people and just pound them.
Right.
They pound them. So it's really discouraging for whistleblowers who are trying to get information out, right? And they have this. I mean, they have bodies of evidence because you have to think. It's just there's so much corruption. You couldn't help but have a body of evidence on it, right? So right now, I'm really looking into that, right, and anticipating all the ways they're going to try to come after some of these people that we have coming out, because we have really, I mean, some heavy stuff that you're like, how is this not brought out already?
Right.
How is no one talked about this? How is this not mainstream? You know, and
Well, we all know the answer. It's because the mainstream is them. They're the
right,
ones doing this. And that's
right.
that's part of the waking up process. The people just have to snap out of their coma, because they literally don't know what's been going on, and
Well,
they choose a side, and the sides are both bad.
right. I mean, and if the whole world's dying of thirst, and you have, the supervillains, controlling the spigot of water, I mean, you know, it's never going to be a fair fight, right? Because you have a bunch of dehydrated, dying people.
Right.
So, it really comes down to this catastrophic collapse that has to happen of their system. And that's really what Kim has been working for. Because it's not enough to get money into the system. Just like you can't just turn around and say, okay, we're just going to give money out to everybody, right? Because people are going to turn right around, right? Everyone gets money. They're going to be, all right, we got money. Let's go change the world. They go out, and who are they going to give money to? They're going to go out and buy stuff from these, rich elites who own everything. So you really got to go in with an attitude of, okay, look, whatever we're going to do, we have to produce it from the beginning. So it really makes a lot of sense to bring them to their knees where they haven't made any money, then form a group that is dedicated to, we're not going to give you any money either, and we have the money, right? Because think of how quickly you could, just your essentials, you could immediately set up organic farms. Now we have probably 30 organic farmers with projects all over the world right now that are ready to go. We have I talked to a guy today, and I can't even share his invention, but man, it will completely change. It'll change the environment. It'll change the way products are delivered. It'll change, the quality of food and everything we get, the quality of the ocean water. I mean, it'll be incredible. It's one product. That's just one of them, you know, and that's what they're afraid of. God forbid you let us actually stop talking to us about the environment when you suppress all this technology that can change the environment, and then
Right.
instead justify killing off people, you idiots. Like, how are we all buying into this? The technology for this stuff is real. It exists already. People have already invented all type. I have half a dozen at least, maybe more, free energy devices in my group, just my little group, right? I have half a dozen cures for cancer, right? Some of them will cure cancer in minutes. I mean, they're incredible. And there's not a cure yet for radiation poisoning. That we don't have.
Oh,
So don't
I'll
do
be
chemo.
right back. I think my dog says there's someone at the door. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Sure. So we don't have a cure yet for radiation therapy, right? So don't do chemotherapy. If you are diagnosed with cancer, do not do chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is almost impossible to recover from. It puts you in a reoccurring cycle of cancer over and over again, right? And cancer. If you listen to Dr. G on the SpeakProjectRadio.com, um, you can actually he'll be on Wednesday, and he's been talking about this about pathogenic diseases, how cancer spreads just like a virus. Now we've known this, the cancer spreads like a virus within the body, and to be honest, there's something that really has to be investigated a little bit more because there's also evidence that nurses who work around cancer patients, they are more likely, they're like 4 times more likely to get cancer. It's because they're always focused on fighting cancer. And because they're always focused on fighting cancer, they're not really focused on, you know, actually thriving people. They're focused on a disease. And because you're focused on a disease state, you literally make yourself, you are giving your cells direction to be more receptive to that disease. So,
Yep, I agree. Indeed.
indeed,
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever you draw your attention to, you're feeding the wrong wolf.
right on.
Yeah.
So,
So you want to feed healthiness. Then do what healthy people do. If
so
you have
I think we should spend more of our time talking about how we are overcoming the cabal because I think that is where the best possible energy comes from, you know. And if you're watching what's happening right now, it is really exciting because we are winning. The banks have been completely taken over. If this task force that Thomas talked about is legit,
mhm.
this when then we have a Pentagon, we have an actual military force who's finally going into the banks and is going to enforce banking laws, right? Like you said, Thomas mentioned Kim set up a fund in Citibank that is designated for Trump campaign um, funds,
2020
financing,
campaign.
2020 campaign, right? So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, you've got it's really at this point, mediocrity is finally, just going to fade away because people are starting to accelerate their own personal growth, their own, tap into their own power. And it only takes a few of us. So anybody listening, if you're one of those few, do that. Be exceptional. You know, I always say this to my kids too. I'm like, because you are exceptional, you have an obligation to be that. You don't have the right to hang back and pretend like you're average just so you can fit in to a collective for the hive. Like you're not part of a hive mind. They're trying to make us part of a hive mind. To do that, they've had to poison every single part of our environment, right? So
Right.
now my understanding is this though that we are at a point of transition where the human race is beginning to vibrate at a higher frequency. And that would mean things like the 5G that we're also scared of, it wouldn't even have an effect on us because we'll just be vibrating at a higher frequency. So, Sasha Stone has put out this, horrifying thing out there to scare people. We have to get above the fear because when you get above the fear, you realize it's not really much to be afraid of. You know, even when it comes to the water. Now we're going to go after them because we have to address it, right? We can't continue to allow that kind of thing to happen to bring our frequency down. But in the meantime, you know what? We can eat more vegetables, and that's going to raise your frequency. You know what? You can love your kids more. You can, love your fellow man more. You can contribute to the world in a positive way. All these things are going to raise your frequency. They do all the time. And you know what? And it's okay to go ahead and get mad once in a while. That's not going to kill you. Like it's all on where you're going with it, right? If there is a certain amount of like we should be disgusted with this. We should be disgusted with what they're doing with kids. We should be disgusted, but we can't be disgusted and do nothing. We have to be disgusted and take action. We have to put things together that change the world. And we don't have, matter of fact, we can't wait. We have to do it now. So the money will just be a byproduct of us taking action. The money will come because it's obvious that we're ready to receive it and do the right thing by humanity. But there is nothing worse. There is nothing more malicious and hateful than to sit back and watch people suffer and do nothing. Nothing. You might as well have committed the act yourself.
Yeah. Well, if you think about the power that people have is, and you want to say that we're ready for those funds to come in. If we were, out peacefully protesting, at the banks, for example, and say stop lending money to the government at interest. Just something, anything that's a positive lens towards this that we're having, or we would be able to start showing up on the radar of other people that would see what we're doing and talking about these efforts. So it's just a matter of taking action, right, and not being so drugged out by fluoride in your toothpaste that you can't do anything. Yeah, that's
Yep.
the reason why they're doing it. They're to keep us. They're to suppress our ability to go out and do anything against them. That's why they poison us. There's also, they don't like that we outnumber them so much, right? How many servants do they need each? Well, I only need 100 each. So, why do we need a million each? So we might as well get rid of the rest of the herd. And by the way, we'll use them as fertilizer.
Yep.
No, we have to take our action, make ourselves known, uh, that we are ready, because we are moving, we're making things happen.
Yep. I feel the same way. I mean, we're at a a breakthrough of everything, right? So this is the charge, right? Like you get to a point now where you can't suppress the message. And by the way, I want to put this out there too that anything I do, right, and at this point because Dan's been basically demonetized, and anything even Dan does, take the recording, right? Take the audio recording. We're actually going to send these out, the video clips, to every single one of the members from Guardian of Camelot, from Speak Project, from Create Change, from the Corvettes. We're sending these videos out to every single person. And what I'm asking you to do is, even if you have 0 followers, post it on your YouTube channel. Post it and then post the link somewhere. Post it everywhere, right? And even if you have almost no followers, it doesn't matter because we're going to post it in about 1,000 different locations, and we're going to start putting these things out so we overwhelm the system. Because no matter how much they block it, you can title it something different. You can monetize it if you want. You can feel free to make money off of whatever we do. Go for it. Because at this point, it's not about making the the change that they're allowing us to make. It's about getting the message out and having it repeat. So we're going to put that out to all of our people, and I'm asking you take these videos, take these that we're going to send out, take the audios from the speakproradio.com and share them everywhere. Put them on. But what I'm asking you to do most specifically is put them on your own YouTube. Now I've got about 300 plus groups doing that already that actually have followings and things like that. Do it for yours. Do it everywhere. You know, because the information we're putting out it is a culmination, a collection of really insightful information. Tomorrow night we're interviewing Dr. Leonard Horowitz, right? And he's done some amazing things, right? Anybody who doesn't know him, we're going to interview him on the Speak Project tomorrow night, and including he's actually talking about like how to change the way we broadcast all the radio frequencies in a 432 frequency. There's no logic to broadcasting in a 440 that damages your health. It's known, right? We have frequency devices in the military that can take a building down from a mile away, right? So imagine, they understand frequencies. We all understand frequency can do damage. So a 440 definitely does damage. So why not broadcast in 432 that heals humanity? If they're what we're calling on the carpet, humanity is on trial, and the people who consider themselves to be leaders right now, they they are on trial too, because are you for the people or are you for killing the people? Because if you're for the people, you have absolutely no reason not to change these things. Because I can save the the government millions of dollars today just by stopping them from treating our water with chemicals that poison us. Just by doing that, I save them millions of dollars, if not billions. And we create a generation of smarter people. I mean, think about that. That's not even doing anything. That's not doing something. you know, it's like this stuff is it's not hard, right? There's nothing really in the way. We've convinced ourselves it's difficult. It's not. It's not. Just stop it. I'll tell you what, and I'm a believer as far as peaceful protests go. Um, I'm a believer in the water supplies are so wide open, right? They're so wide open. They're so easily poisoned. Um, that I'm a believer that we have peaceful protests in the form of having people, our people, real people, guard the water treatment plants at all times. That we have, hundreds of people camped outside at all times to stop any company that comes in with toxic chemicals to put in our water, because there's absolutely no justification. It is all about the chlorine industry, right? The chlorine industry, chlorine is more expensive. It is less effective than ozone therapy, and ozone therapy would increase the actual oxygen in the water. It would improve our health. It would increase the amount of oxygen that is in our body, which naturally will make our bodies more alkaline. It'll naturally get rid of diseases. It'll naturally prolong our lives. That's why they're stopping it. So, just saying.
Well, yeah, yeah, that would be something to for there to be actually protests at the water treatment facilities and to stop fluoride. That's probably an important step. Just realizing chlorination and fluoride of the water are two of the things that there's no reason to do it. There's plenty, as you said, there's other methods that they could do to improve the quality of the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even hard. Again, one of the inventions they're suppressing right now will completely do away with any pathogenic diseases in the water. Anything that is harmful to humanity, they could structure the water with no chemicals at all,
Right.
just by using spin. I mean,
Yeah.
why would we add chemicals at all? Just spin the water out; it'll naturally go to itself. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but something like that. That's how you structure water.
Yeah.
Play
Well,
frequencies.
if you use the vortex, and you have a drain, it creates a vortex. So the act of draining water, you could literally get to the point of cleaning the water. But you need to do it at a certain rate and certain structuring of it to make it happen at the right way. But you could use the vortex itself. Um, Whenever you have a vortex, the amount of energy gets concentrated to the apex of that vortex. So uh, you can create there. I have a technology that was bequeathed to me upon the death of an individual that has to deal. It's a vortex technology, and it was used to clean water. I mean, you can use it to clean many things, but the prototype, it was a very large size prototype. They cleaned pig slurry, basically the waste from the pig, and removed water from it and left behind the waste was then it would burn at a very high BTU. So it actually created fuel and clean water, and it is very difficult to clean this up, but it was basically you'd get more energy out of cleaning this pig slurry than it took to clean it. right, from the
Wow.
actual waste product that gets, that could then be burned. And when it's burned, it's actually clean. It burns with a blue flame.
Wow. Um, I had someone else give me an absolutely genius idea today, uh, which I'm totally going to support this. Um, is was talking about cattle raised for meat, right? That instead of feeding it corn, to feed it seaweed, right? And you could literally feed all the cattle in the world with the seaweed that just shakes loose from the bottom of the ocean, and it would reduce the alleged toxic gases produced by cows by 70%.
There you go, AOC.
Now think about it though. These guys they're perpetuating this lie on us, like because of the cow, because of people. There's too many people, and we require too much meat. No, we don't. We don't need meat to live. You want to change the world? Start promoting a vegetarian lifestyle. We would naturally every the food we would eat would be naturally a higher frequency, in harmony with nature. We'd live longer, be healthier, stronger. You know, all these things. It's amazing. The blueprint to change the world is right in front of us.
I,
And
I will tell you, I'm very unhealthy when I eat a vegetarian diet.
okay, Dan.
Literally, I gain weight, right?
Well,
Always
probably because
hungry.
there's two kinds of listen. You could eat all ice cream and be a
No,
vegetarian.
no, no,
Okay.
no. No dairy. I had no dairy. I actually I had a vegan. I was eating. I started off vegetarian. It was an 8 month diet. I gained 40 pounds, and I had started off vegetarian and went into vegan after about less than a month. And I know how to eat vegan. My father in law was vegan from India, and so I would cook vegan. I make amazing vegan food, but uh, when I went to India for 20 years, I did go 3 or 4 or 5 times in a year to India, and I'd alternate my when I got there, I would either eat all vegetarian, or the next time I would go, I would eat all non-veg, and I just alternate back and forth. So I had the experience of eating those different ways. But I know that when I did this experiment for eating vegan, I actually was doing for the purpose of meditation reasons. I
Hmm.
was looking at studying my meditation and what the difference might be, and I was just looking at theories. I'm an engineer also, so I like to break things down and see how things work and how to put them together. But I know that when I ate a vegetarian diet, I was always hungry, and and I was always eating. And then as soon as I ended that, my weight dropped. I went back to my normal weight, and and I tend to eat 50-50 meat, 50% vegetables. And
Well,
that's
the only thing is that it's grains. Did you give up grains?
well, not in the very beginning, but later I did.
You still gained weight with grains? I don't know about that, man.
How about
I'd have to look at
potatoes,
your diet.
root vegetables? You gain weight with those. Rice.
Oh, I
you
said
know.
rice is a grain. Rice is a grain.
Oh, okay. Well,
Starches. I mean,
yeah.
those are all things that are
Well, I
actually.
would eat rice, but I did not eat all. I didn't eat. I was eating brown rice at the time also, and I did not eat a lot of rice. Rice is not my favorite thing. It's even though I'll have it here and there, but it's not my the thing I'm drawn to eat. No, I like greens uh, uh, and the deep red vegetables and purple and
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
so those things. I don't like lettuce, that's yellow and white. I like deep green colors and um, but literally I was very 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 hungry. I was it was almost like made me tired that I was
Yeah, well,
always having to
sure.
eat. Um, Anyway, and there's some other things that I've analyzed over the years, and from different looking at it from different angles. And I had uh, you know I've heard all the arguments. Well, I won't eat anything with a face, right? Or or I don't want to cause pain to animals or something along those lines. And I can understand the feelings behind that, but at the same time, some in life something has to consume something else. I mean, we're not at the stage where we can just absorb the energy right from the ether. And maybe if that's the final stage of things, maybe that's it. But but I don't see how I flip a switch and just start. Okay, I'm Tesla'd up, right, and getting transportation.
Right.
Suddenly I
uh,
want to get it, but you know
I
I
I don't know. It takes a lot of discipline, and I mean, even when I was like a pescatarian for like 2 years, I still would have like, every couple of weeks I would just crave, meat. I would just be hungry. I would eat it. But I mean,
yeah,
I use
no,
fish is meat.
no,
Fish
I'm
is meat too.
I'm very focused whenever I decide to do something. Like when I gave up coffee, it was like that, and I had no cravings for it. I still have no cravings for it. I loved coffee, and I gave it up. It's and it was. I found what my natural rhythms are. I know if I'm not exercising, that I'll gain weight. I have been gaining weight. I see my face is very puffy right now because I'm not
Sure.
exercising. I'm too focused. I'm sitting too much at the computer, trying to, working. Uh, so, uh, but I also saw, fish have a place within our diet. So we talked about seaweed, right? So there's elements in fish that are necessary for only place where you can get these certain, enzymes that you're required to come out of fish. So if you don't have it in your whole life, you'll die earlier. So if it makes it into your in a very minute amounts, or I mean, a small amount goes a long way. Less is more in regards to these. Even when you look at how plants grow, I love planting and growing things, and you can see that such a big plant can come out of a very small seed with so little soil, like almost no soil, as though it's like, where did the mass come from?
Right.
And
Right. It's really
where
incredible.
did
Yeah.
it come from? It's so if you actually add nutrients to a plant that's growing, you require so few. Most of the nutrients are literally washed away, into this. So if you're putting nutrition, you don't need much to make it, do a lot. Um, but there
Well,
is,
and your body can actually transmute, you know, the stored fat in your body to create any nutrients you need as well. I mean, it's
sure,
all on a molecular level, a nutraceutical kind of level. You know, um, your body can literally, whatever you need, your body can just make it. I mean, your body makes all the nutrients. You are the earth, right? So all the minerals and everything that's in the earth is in you. So yeah,
yeah,
I
I think that it's all possible, but whether it's actually something that, I need a little bit more copper, I mean okay, I made some. I don't know how to make that a part of a healthy diet, right? What does that translate into?
actually I look at it this way. This is my really solid belief system on this, and I use this all the time because I sit more than I'd like to as well. And whenever I see myself gaining weight, I consider, what am I consuming? Not just the food, but what am I consuming with my thoughts? What am I thinking about? Because what am I consuming with the media? What is my focus? And I realize that I can literally think away weight just by thinking about something differently. And I've
I hear what you're saying. I think that also, part of the well, I'm going to exercise now. You've already thought different, right? And
I think it's coupled with
you're
action.
heading
Yeah,
in
I
that
agree.
direction. So I know I need to start climbing the mountain, and I'm I'm ready, for the break in the weather, So at least I know that I'll survive the trip, So that it gets too hot, that I won't make it halfway up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm with you on that. I'm amazed. We were talking about some things, for about $10 a month, right? Um, we can basically give you a couple of um, my life hacks that you can use that will completely change your health. Um, Dr. G was talking about this last week about how using, and Lisa were talking about using a teaspoon of baking soda before you go to bed every night will allow your body to maintain alkalinity much easier, right? And I guess there's a whole host of things that it does. And one of the things it does is there was a woman who was out years ago who explained how baking soda would cure cancer, right? Which it's pretty common. People know that if your body's alkaline, cancer can't survive. And so they destroyed all her videos. Who knows where she is now? But baking soda, what does that cost? $3? Yeah. And then the other one is borax, right? Borax, a box of borax is $5.49. Boron, and your body is lacking in boron, and it treats so many things. It changes heart conditions because it's breaking up the plaque. It will change the damaging effects of fluoride. It'll change the effects of inflammatory conditions, lower blood pressure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hold
these
on.
are all things that.
You keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so I'm a believer in borax, and also these things don't have a negative side effect with current medications that people are taking already. Although I'm sure that they'll try to say that later, but there is nothing there that's um, that is going to cause a counter. It's not counterindicated for any of the medications. None of them have these things because they're considered, even though borax and I think baking soda as well are just basically single ingredients, and they're naturally occurring in your body and in food and in the earth itself. So it's very healthy to just utilize those to optimize your
Yeah.
health for next to nothing.
Yeah. And when these things are also grown into the plants that are taking it from the soil, it puts it in a form that's easy for us to absorb too.
Yep.
Right. It's the organic fashion of, so you have to, when you talk about getting iron in your diet, it doesn't do you any good to eat nails.
No, right. Yeah, don't eat nails. As a rule, do not eat nails. You heard it here
As
first
a
on the
rule.
Dank Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that when they had the cereals and they say fortified with iron, they literally put iron shavings into the food.
Wow, that's doesn't seem like it would absorb very well.
It doesn't absorb at all.
Yeah.
it needs to go through the plants absorbing it. They are able to go ahead and grab it and put it in a form that we can then take into our body.
It's incredible. I'm so this incredible person that I talked to today. Um, in addition to some industrial inventions that he's made that are out of this world, he also has this incredible cure for cancer, which is currently active in Newport Beach. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it. People have to sign a waiver to use it, but it takes about 20 minutes, and it basically super oxidizes your body. And they put people in this process, and when they start to exhale oxygen, that what happens is like the body's got so much oxygen in it, it forces out all the waste. And then for like the next 3 days, you're just defecating and urinating constantly, but you get rid of all the waste. It's like a super detox. It's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. And it eradicates cancer and pretty much everything else, allows your body to almost start fresh. Isn't that amazing?
No, it is amazing. that would be interesting. I've done a few different cleanses over the years, and even when I question their validity on what they could do, some of them I think are more make sense. Like when what I'll do is as soon as I start my exercise climbing the mountain, I will switch to where I'm actually going to just juice 3 days a week, which I'll just have juice that day. The juice I'll have is carrot, beet, ginger, lemon, and cayenne,
Good mix.
or even actually chilies as well. Not just powder, but literally chilies, and I'll have that, and I will not be hungry. I can drink that and not be hungry, but I'll have like three times a day, about 12 to 16 ounces at a time, and I can do that, and my weight will drop as I will exercise, but I also am detoxing while that's happening, right? It's a very good combination. I also mix the turmeric ginger also. I'll use both
Oh,
kinds
really?
of ginger.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's naturally available here. It's you pick it up at the market, not in the yellow powder form, but in the root form. And
Turmeric is incredible, actually, but it has to be combined with a certain mix of vitamins to pass the blood-brain barrier, I guess. So it doesn't always doesn't always help people when they just take a supplement. Has to be mixed with vitamin D, I believe. Yeah, most vitamins do. Most vitamins have to be, most
interesting.
nutrients have to be combined with vitamin D. And that's just shows our codependence on the sun.
That
We have
you
really.
just clicked something for me. Uh, there's a medicine that is made with turmeric that is very. I've noticed it's very well at kicking the butt of any flu that's coming at you. Right, if you start feeling the symptoms, you have Dudemont beta, and what it is dude is the milk, and you mix that with honey
Hmm.
and the yellow part of the egg and turmeric and brandy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
good.
it's,
That
it's,
works.
it's good. And it's a heavy dose of the turmeric too. It's not. I mean, this stuff is. If you have turmeric direct, it's pretty strong. It's not so pleasant. But in this combination, it actually is very pleasant, even though it's so strong. But that mixture makes it very good. So just start your morning with that, right? You do that 2 mornings or 3 mornings in a row. You'll notice that the flu just never really materialized. It kind of sort of
Yeah,
had some symptoms, and it just kind of just fades away. But I think the vitamin D is in the milk, so that would make sense. Honey has its own properties. And of course the brandy has the good effective alcohol for killing off bad things. But
yeah, of course, right.
yeah, but and you have to have the brandy. I don't know why, because if I've tried it without the brandy, and it doesn't seem to work as well.
It probably causes some kind of fermentation to happen. You know,
Yeah,
a lot of things need to ferment. It's like kombucha tea. Kombucha tea has all types of health benefits, but it's fermented. It's like
yeah.
fermented. I don't know,
I have
mushrooms or
my
something.
yeah I have my own kombucha also that I have on a relatively daily basis.
Do you drink it? Do you make it? Do you add sugar
I
to
make
it
it,
too?
yeah, I make it, but I have it in my as part of my uh, the water that I use to make ice. Yeah, I freeze it, and then I'll put the ice in with my ice from my tea. And so as the ice melts, it will start consuming the liquid of the tea, or the nutrients that are in the tea and the water, and so it actually gets thicker throughout the day. One of my little experiments. It's but by the next morning though, I don't want to drink it. So it's very light amount of kombucha, considering throughout the day. But if I left it overnight, then the next day it's very thick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it like creates like a film at the top. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, it's thick. It's throughout. I don't know. It's just I thought of trying to do some other experiments with it, but at that level. But it's there is a lot of I guess the old wives' tales or the old medicinal things that we were told to do. It work really well. It's amazing that these things have been pushed aside, right? All for the sake
Oh
of
yeah.
the
Right.
pharmaceutical items, which I see as sorcery. As a new form of sorcery, new form of addiction, getting people to
Yeah. It's
be
all black
enslaved.
magic stuff. It's all stuff. It's just concoction. One poisons you, one makes you well. You know, I remember this when I was in the Mayan Riviera, Riviera Maya, and and there was this tree, and if you touched the tree, you would die. Right? It was poisonous, and 2 feet away from that tree was always the other tree, which was the cure. Right? And every place you looked in the forest, there was always the poisonous tree and the cure, and they were always side by side. Right? Like really symbolizing the balance of nature that's always there. And I realized, if we have all these poisonous things, well, what's exciting is, well, that means the cure is here too, right? So even as we look at all these horribly evil things, you know, what's amazing is right next to it is the cure. But the cure has to be used, right? Like the tree isn't going to pick you up and cure you. You have to,
Yeah.
can like work with the tree, I guess. So I'm just thinking about that now as that more and more, that's where we're at, right? We are the cure, right? And we are infected with a virus right now, which is, trying to kill us, which is this draconian. I don't even know. Like I don't, not to say. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. The draconian mentality, though, is one where we're slaves and they're superior, which is not true. It's not even close to true, as a matter of fact. So I'm excited to be the cure.
Well, they're legends in their own minds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Draconian.
I mean, they're just horrible, horrible beings. I mean, I like from what I can tell, everything we've seen, if we used, Hillary Clinton as the gauge, let's say, because I feel like every time I turn around, there's one more crime Hillary Clinton's involved in,
Right.
and then she's marching in parades in New York, and I'm just like, how are you allowed out of the house? Like you are toxic, right? Like you should not be talking to anyone. She reminds me of like Silence of the Lambs, the main guy who
Sure.
would like, he had the
Hannibal
ability to
Lecter.
just Hannibal Lecter had the ability just to talk to people and they would just cut their own face off or just do something insane because he would just convince them that that's what they should do and he would just manipulate them. Like I just with Hillary Clinton, I'm like, it has to be something like that, at least the original version of her. I mean, she's just some clone now. So just the legend of Hillary Clinton now is that powerful. She was created to play this role. They never thought she'd lose, right? Keep hearing that. But she did. She lost.
Yeah.
So that means humanity
That,
wins.
that reality is gone and will never return. In fact, they're just can't believe as their world disappears around them as they keep following their playbook, right? But the world around them is changing and they don't know how to stop it, so they freak out.
Yeah.
Arrangement syndrome, acting insane, saying things that make no sense.
Well, you ever heard of first and last theory? That people only remember the first thing you said and the last thing you said, right? So I think we should wrap it up. And I just want to, the last thing I want to say is the same as the first. I am holding the vibration and the frequency that all of our money is already in the bank. Everything we need to change the world is there waiting for us. It is designated for the purposes of changing the world. And I am in full belief and support that that is true. I have not been told that by Kim. I have not been told that by anyone. As my own intuition, I am certain that is true. And I would ask everyone on this call to allow yourself to feel that relief, that inspiration, that excitement, that love, that joy, the peace to know that you did it. You have broken through. You have found a way to change the world. And one of the many manifestations is going to be that you are going to be given some kind of financial freedom to go and pursue the greatest goals you ever thought you could ever achieve. Magnify that by 1,000. Take your highest level of peace and joy and confidence and just allow it to multiply and let it be infectious and contagious like a virus to everyone you meet. Go out and perpetuate love and joy to everyone and everything you can. Be kind, be generous, be humble, be confident, be bold. But please take those actions today. Don't wait for anything to come in. It's already here. So I just want to say
Indeed.
that. Indeed.
Indeed. I agree with all of that sentiment and thoughts and feelings. So it's here. Let's go forward.
All right. Let's go change the world. Dan, same time, same bat channel tomorrow. And I expect incredible news to share with everyone tomorrow. And I hold me to it, you know.
I already heard
So
it.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, have a good night. Thanks, Dan.
Bye.